Today is March the 27th. Do you know who has your personal data? Do you know how Facebook, Google, and Amazon are using your personal data? Is that product you bought from Amazon a counterfeit? You should find out. Our website is pcradioshow.org. We can be heard each Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on prn.fm, streaming on the internet as well as on various podcasting hosting sites. Podcasts of the program is available on prn.fm, on the internet, and pcradioshow.org. To listen to the live program on the telephone each Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, the number is 641-793-7091. For those who are listening to the program on demand, you can leave us a message with your question or comment to hank@pcradioshow.org. You can also reach us on the Google number 862-800-6805. That's 862-800-6805. And you start your message with the Personal Computer Show, followed by your message. Today is March the 27th, but let's fast forward to March the 31st. It's World Backup Day. So what's the big deal about it? It doesn't mean that it's the one day you back up and then you wait till next year to do the next backup. Shouldn't every day be a backup day? Of course. But many don't even have the minimum of a single backup. World Backup Day is a day for people to learn about the increasing role of data in our lives and the importance of regular backups. This initiative is to raise awareness about backups and data preservation. Let's make this happen. Less than 15% of those using personal computers have backups. A backup is a second copy of all your important files. For example, your family photos, home videos, documents, and emails. Instead of storing it all in one place like your computer, you keep another copy of everything somewhere safe. Having a second copy of all your data on another drive in the same computer unit, however, is not backup. If you haven't secured your data yet, take the World Backup Day pledge today. If you work in technology, you may have heard about World Backup Day. It was founded in 2011 to boost awareness for businesses and individuals that may not recognize the importance of regular data backups. The goal, according to World Backup Day website, is to use March 31st as the date each year to reach those who have never backed up their data and even people who might not have even heard about data backup. Why March 31st? The next day is April Fool's Day. You probably know someone who lost their hard drive and wish someone had reminded them to back up. I find that small businesses don't truly understand the threats from ransomware, data loss, and data breaches. It is important for small businesses and individuals to be honest with themselves. They don't know what data is on their laptops, tablets, and smartphones. But don't think of data loss as something that only happens to big enterprise companies or to individuals who drop their phone in their swimming pools. Any company or individual can fall victim to data loss and theft. Attacks are incredibly simple ways that hackers target companies and individuals without having a massive army of coders on their side. It could be as simple as an attack from fraudulent email. Not protecting your data can be a costly decision. Attacks are happening more often. They're more sophisticated and they're becoming more and more pervasive. The cost of data loss or data breach incident can be very costly. The simplest data protection policy is to automatically back up the endpoint data to the cloud. It is crucial that you know how to restore the data back onto your system. Research and understand the terms and conditions of the cloud storage provider. How much of the data is retained over what period of time? If there is outage, what should be your plan B? Depending on how much downtime you can tolerate, you can then set about looking at various data protection and backup solutions. You should strongly consider creating local backups as well as backups in an off-site location. Then go about setting up operating procedures to both automatically back up and test the data restored regularly. This year, we have seen the incidence of ransomware continue to rise, illustrating the importance of backing up and securing your data. Understand that it's cheaper to pay for backups than to pay a ransom. Ransomware is everywhere. If you fall victim to such an attack, you could be asked to pay a hefty ransom to get your data back. If you have your information and files backed up, well, you can have a better peace of mind that your data is safe and that you can avoid the monetary burden. Don't rely only on file sync backup to protect data. Backups that rely on file syncing are no longer enough. Humans lead to human errors, and when it comes to traditional backup, to combat this, you should look to services that provide automated, instant, and continuous backup. Just back up your data. Any backup is better than no backup. Most people don't realize that when they do not back up their data, they're putting their data at risk. Always follow the 3-2-1 rule. Have at least 3 copies of your data. Store the copies on 2 different media, either disk or tape, or 2 separate systems. Keep 1 backup copy off-site. And here is some nuggets of technical advice. There are 2 types of disk drives, one that are still working and ones that have failed. Always test your ability to restore from backup on a regular basis. Perform a complete disaster recovery test at least once a year, ideally every quarter, or better yet, every month. For speedy recovery, back up the entire operating system and applications, not just the data. Always make sure that more than one person knows your backup and recovery procedure. Put it in a safe place, or your passwords needed to operate the computer. Put it in a sealed envelope with your will. Make sure to update it whenever there is a change. Calculate what the cost of downtime would be and use it to stress the importance of investing in a good backup and disaster recovery strategy. Map out where your most important data resides and apply an appropriate backup schedule. One size does not fit all. Don't forget to back up your remote user data. Keep it simple. The last thing you want to do in the middle of an emergency is to deal with complexity. Set up a backup schedule that covers all relevant devices and media. Verify that backups function correctly and that they run in accordance with the determined schedule. Regularly check data backup systems to identify any errors. Test backups on a regular basis to validate that the data is complete and intact. Many are hoarding every scrap of data, irrespective of value, on the off chance it's needed in the future. Do a periodic review of your data and determine what is still needed. You don't want to just hoard data requiring large amounts of storage. Back up the good stuff, but delete the crap. And just remember the 3 important words: back up, back up, back up. The U.S. government sounds alarm over the Medtronic defibrillator. A defibrillator is an apparatus used to control heart fibrillation by application of electric current to the chest wall or heart. Don't have a heart attack, but your implanted defibrillator can be hacked over the air by someone who really wants you dead. Medical gear maker Medtronic is once again at the center of a hacker panic storm. This time, a number of its heart defibrillator implanted in patients' chests can, in certain circumstances, be wirelessly hijacked and reprogrammed, perhaps ending in lethal effect. Last Thursday, U.S. government's Department of Homeland Security issued an alert over 2 vulnerabilities in Medtronic's wireless communication system, Connexus, which is used by some of its heart defibrillators and their control units. Connexus exchanges data between implanted devices and their control units over the air using radio waves within a range of roughly 25 feet without any signal boosting. The more serious of the flaws can be potentially exploited by an attacker to meddle with data flying between the device and its controller. The Connexus protocol does not include any checks for this kind of tampering, nor performs any form of authentication. This means transmission can be intercepted, spoofed, and modified by hackers and their nearby equipment, which can also masquerade as a control unit. The protocol allows a nearby cracker with the right radio gear and in the right circumstances to send commands to the implanted cardiac device that reads or writes memory in the gadget. That means someone can, at the right moment, maliciously manipulate the operation of the vulnerable implant over the airwaves, potentially harming or perhaps even ultimately killing the patient. While a successful exploit could indeed lead to an attacker changing how the defibrillator operates, there are some mitigating factors. Most notably, the device has to be in so-called listen mode, in which it awaits commands, and it's a state that is not active the vast majority of the day. The implanted device typically wakes up to pick up transmission when it is activated, usually during an appointment or checkup with a doctor, or it wakes up automatically and briefly to exchange telemetry with a control unit in the patient's home. A spokesperson for Medtronic noted the attacker would need to know the specific model of device in the victim and have reverse engineered its design to know which commands to send to write the necessary data into memory to cause harm. Thus, someone really needs to be out to get you to pull this off. The second vulnerability addresses the lack of encryption with the Connexus wireless transmissions. This means an attacker within range can listen in on the data being sent and received and spy on the patient's condition over the air. Medtronic said it is working on a fix for both issues, and in the meantime urged doctors and patients to continue to use the implants and controllers as usual. Medtronic noted that its line of implanted pacemakers are not vulnerable to either of these flaws, just some of its only heart defibrillators. Have your doctor notify you as soon as he receives the fix for the defibrillator if you are affected. Facebook left hundreds of millions of passwords unencrypted. Facebook users may want to consider changing their passwords even if the company isn't initiating a password reset after it acknowledged it left hundreds of millions of passwords exposed to internal employees. What they're saying is, you can trust their employees. Notice the silence? Facebook confirmed on Thursday that some passwords were stored in a readable, unencrypted format, but said the issue had been fixed. The company also said there was no evidence that the passwords had been accessed by anyone outside of the company or improperly accessed by Facebook employees. The issue was discovered during a security review in January. This caught their attention because their login systems are designed to mask passwords using techniques that make them unreadable. They have fixed these issues as a precaution. Where was the quality assurance before this was implemented and put into the system? Facebook said it plans to send notifications to anyone whose passwords were stored in this manner, but it won't require they be reset. Facebook said that includes hundreds of millions of users of Facebook Lite, a bare-bones app that uses less data and is popular in places with low connectivity were affected. Tens of millions of Facebook users and tens of thousands of Instagram users were also affected. While Facebook isn't initiating a reset, it would be wise to err on the side of caution after a password has been exposed. If you don't know your password or already logged out of the social network, you can simply choose Forgot Password on the login page and your password will be reset with follow-up instructions sent to your email address. Hackers compromised ASUS Live Update tool to distribute malware to almost 1 million people. Today's news that hackers put backdoors into thousands of ASUS computers using the company's own software update platform is a reminder of why supply chain compromises are one of the scariest digital attacks out there. Attackers compromised ASUS Live Update tool to distribute malware to almost 1 million customers last year, according to initial findings by Kaspersky Lab. ASUS machines accepted the tainted software because the attackers were able to sign it with real ASUS certificate used to verify the legitimacy and trustworthiness of new code. Though the scope of the attack is broad, the attackers seem to have been seeking out a select 600 computers to target more deeply in a second-stage attack. Kaspersky discovered the attack on ASUS in January and disclosed it to the company on January 31st. ASUS has not yet notified its customers about the situation yet, and Kaspersky says its researchers met with ASUS a few times, and the company seems to be in the process of investigating the incident, cleaning up its systems, and establishing new defenses. Software supply chain attacks are insidious because once hackers establish the ability to create platform updates that appear to be legitimate, they can capitalize on the product distribution base to spread their malware quickly and widely. In the case of the ASUS incident, attackers were targeting more than 600 machines in particular out of 1 million machines. What was the motive? We don't know at this time. Every digital device has a unique identifier called a MAC address, and the ASUS malware was programmed to check the addresses of the device it infected. For the hundreds of thousands of ASUS customers whose devices weren't on the hackers' hit list, the malware would have no effect at all. If it was running on a targeted machine, however, it was programmed to phone back to a malicious server and download the second-stage payload to carry out deeper attack. So, who's affected by this? The list of roughly 600 targeted devices that the malware was looking for mostly includes ASUS machines, and as you would expect for malware distributed throughout that manufacturer. But some of the MAC addresses in the list have prefixes indicating that they are not ASUS devices and are made by another manufacturer. Kaspersky has created a downloadable tool that you should download from them and an online portal that you can use to check whether your device's MAC addresses were on the target list. The researchers hope that this will help them connect with all the victims on the targeted attack so they can find out more about what the hackers were after and what the targeted victims have in common, if anything. The sinister truth that a supply chain compromise could happen to any company feels a lot more real when one hits a company maker as big as ASUS. And this could have happened to any other company, and we don't know if it did. HMD Global Oy, branded as HMD, is a Finnish mobile phone company made up of the mobile phone business that Nokia had sold to Microsoft back in 2014 and then bought it back in 2016. Well, HMD is in hot water now following a report that HMD's Nokia 7 Plus was sending users personal information to a server in China. HMD responded to the report admitting that a device activation client meant for another country was mistakenly included in the software package of a single batch of Nokia 7 Plus. The investigation found that Nokia 7 Plus was sending the MAC and SIM ID, all of which are unique hardware identifiers that could be used to track an individual. There was also rough location information as the device sent the ID of the nearest cell tower. In the article, the site claims that this data was sent every time the phone was switched on and that the phone was sending this data for several months. HMD admits that this data ended up on a third-party server, but claims that the data was never processed. How do they know? The company identifies the information sent as activation data and then says that no person could have been identified based on this data. HMD's claim here is a bit strange considering that the entire point of activation data is to identify someone so they can be billed for cellular access. The Chinese server in question was ZZHC, which apparently belongs to the state-owned China Telecom. China has been a major focus for HMD, and the country often gets the company's Nokia phones before the rest of the world. HMD says its activation data end up in China due to shipping the wrong country variant of an activation app. According to HMD, this error had already been identified and fixed in February of 2019. That's only last month. And that all affected devices have received this fix and nearly all devices have already installed it. Presumably that means that any Nokia 7 Plus owners running the March 2019 Android security patch should have the update. If you happen to have a Nokia 7, check that you have the March 2019 patch installed. Just fixing the issue probably won't be the end of this situation, though. There's a good chance this was a violation of the European General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, which limits the exporting of user data outside of the European Union. HMD is based in Finland, so Finland's Data Protection Ombudsman is considering investigating the incident. HMD said it takes the security and privacy of its consumers seriously and that it would cooperate with any investigation. How can you send the data to the wrong country? And where is the quality assurance and quality control in the operation of the company? I just got an alert from Google. The message was, save your Google Plus content before March the 31st, 2019. And the message read, you've received this email because you have content in Google Plus for your personal consumer account or a Google Plus page that you manage. This is a reminder that on April the 2nd, 2019, they are shutting down consumer Google Plus and will begin deleting content from consumer Google Plus accounts, photos and videos from Google Plus in your album archive and your Google Plus pages will also be deleted. Downloading your Google Plus content may take time, so get started before March the 31st, 2019. They also said that no other Google products such as Gmail, Google Photos, Google Drive, YouTube will be shut down as part of the consumer Google Plus shutdown. And the Google account that you use to sign into these services will remain. They also noted that photos and videos already backed up in Google's Photos will not be deleted. If you need more information, see the full Google Plus shutdown FAQ. And finally, they said you have received this mandatory email service announcement to update you about important changes to your Google Plus page, product, or account. So this is an alert from Google on their offering of Google Plus. And if you don't save your data, you're going to lose it by April 2nd, 2019. There are informational websites where there is no advertisements. There are commercial websites with advertisements. I don't have a problem when visiting a website and there is an accompaniment of ads. However, I do want the web designers to know that they do not help the advertisers by inserting ads between every paragraph of text. Now, web designers have stepped it up another notch. There are websites that only encourage visitors to switch off without reading or viewing any of the material on the page that's brought up, because when you open the page, they still get credit for the hit. When the website main page is open, the website autoplays video or audio of material that may or may not be related to the content's title. The extreme is when it's not possible to turn down or turn off the video or sound other than closing out the page. Well, Firefox's new browser release comes to the rescue. The latest version of the browser helps make your internet experience quieter. Mozilla's Firefox browser is working to minimize inconveniences we encounter online. The browser's latest update, version 66, which was released last week, silences auto-playing videos by default, prevents page jumps, and makes it easier to find what you're looking for in multiple tabs. The block autoplay feature will by default stop videos from starting automatically on news sites or those that host movies or TV shows. That's great because it's an opt-in if you want that sound. If you want to watch the videos, well, just click on to play it. It's important to note that it won't stop videos that are already playing on mute. You can enable autoplay on certain websites by editing your permission list in the Control Center. Firefox version 66 makes for a smoother scrolling experience. The new feature keeps your page anchored so you don't lose your place. Searches are streamlined with a tab overflow menu and private browsing, which doesn't save your history. Additionally, the newest version of Firefox includes easy-to-understand security alerts, support for Windows Hello, and an improved experience for extension users. In September 2018, Administrative Judge Thomas Pender at the U.S. International Trade Commission found that Apple had infringed on one of the 3 Qualcomm patents, but refused to issue a ban on the import of infringing phones, saying that it was not in the public interest. The International Trade Commission will issue a ruling on the possible ban on iPhones that infringe on a Qualcomm patent. Find in favor of infringement and not issue a ban on the devices was most unusual. However, the judgment was just the first phase of the ITC process. The second involves a review by the ITC commissioners, which is underway and may result in a different conclusion. The ITC is responsible for presiding over disputes surrounding the importation into the United States of products that allegedly infringe U.S. patents. If a claim is found to be valid after an ITC investigation, the administrative law judge can issue a ban on the infringing products unless it believes a ban could cause harm to the public interest. In this case, ITC commissioners decided to review Judge Pender's decision on the one infringed patent and the recommendation not to issue an import ban. The consideration of a ban would be based on 3 factors. How long would it take Apple to adopt new designs that don't infringe the patent? What national security and public interest concerns might arise from an import ban? And whether it's feasible to implement a ban only on affected models. Judge Pender found that Apple had infringed a Qualcomm battery-saving technology patent. During the trial, Apple argued that it was impossible to design around this patent. And in response to the Commission's review, Apple argued that implementing the ban would cause harm to national competitiveness and national security because the ban would force Intel from the market for 4G premium baseband chipsets, an absolute prerequisite for 5G development efforts to give interrelationship between 4G and the forthcoming 5G technologies, an absolute prerequisite for 5G development. Additionally, without current 4G sales for Apple, Intel lacks a viable path forward to compete for the forthcoming 5G baseband chipset sales. According to Apple, this would result in a Qualcomm monopoly in the U.S., and to counter the argument, Qualcomm offered to limit the ban to current 4G and prior generations, excluding the next generation of 5G solutions to encourage continued investments by Intel. However, Judge Pender sided with Apple and recommended against any import ban of iPhones using Intel 4G modems. At present, with this case, we have a 2-tier system of justice. Apple argues that it was impossible to design around this patent. They have since said that they have a workaround. Banning the sale of iPhones with 4G capability would impair national competitiveness and security. There are Android phones with 4G capability, so this is not an issue. What does the sale of Apple iPhones have to do with national security? The last issue is that a sales ban would harm Intel to be competitive with Qualcomm. I don't understand the law, but what would the judgment have been if it was not Apple? Just asking. I guess there is a rational reason why it's necessary to have a 2-tier justice system in this case. Last week, Benjamin Rockwell brought up points to consider when choosing a desktop system or a notebook. This week, it is part 2 of 3 when one is choosing a monitor system. Next week, he will present the last in the trilogy in which he will discuss the choosing of a laser printer.
Technology in the workplace is abundant. This is Benjamin Rockwell, and I'm going to relate to you how some of the work technology decisions can bridge the gap over into your personal technology decisions. This week, I'm going to be talking about how an IT professional might choose a different monitor setup for you. Now, we all recognize that your monitor is part of your interaction with a computer. You have your keyboard, you have your mouse, and these work with the monitor and also the printer, but that's another story, with your interaction. This is your daily view into the data that you're working with for your job. We're dealing with things like email, documents, spreadsheets, presentations, your research on the internet, and so much more. You may have a number of different programs, number of different windows that you're opening up to work with. And this is one area where people used to save a few extra bucks. They would just get one monitor. And I'm telling you right now, this is not the thing you should do. Well, for the most part. If you are just logging onto your computer for just about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe even half an hour, and you're just checking the internet, you're just checking email, you're not moving back and forth between a lot of windows, you might just stick with one monitor. However, if you are dealing with a lot of different bits and pieces of information, you might go with multiple monitors. Usually we see people work with dual monitors. Let me go back in time. We're going back, probably about 12 years ago. I was working for an aerospace subcontractor, and I went to John's desk, and he had one 17-inch tube screen monitor. You remember those? Those were the big, huge, heavy things. We carried them around, and they weren't the light, widescreen monitors that we use today. Well, I went to him, and I said, I can increase your productivity by just adding one more monitor. Not make you work harder. I'm just going to make it easier for you to work. And he liked it. My boss, the owner of the company, he said, nah, John won't ever go for that. He's just going to be a grumbler. He's going to hate the whole idea. It took John all of a day to come back to me and go, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. He found that he had more places for his windows. He didn't have to tab back and forth. There was nothing hidden. He could compare details on a big, huge drawing, and he could work with an email on the other drawing. So imagine this. Over on the left, he's got his email. Over on the right, he's got all of this airplane part just zoomed in and zooming out, and he can do all kinds of different measurements. He's working with one window on one screen and a different window on the other screen. If you've seen dual screens before, if you've used dual screens, you know how advantageous this can be. If you are at the computer for more than a few hours a day, this is a huge advantage for you. It's kind of like having desk space. If you have not experienced this, it's like having just enough space on your desk for the paper that you're writing on or for the book that you're reading from. All right, so you're going back and forth between that pad of paper and a book. The pad of paper and the book. You have to keep moving that book out of the way, or the pad of paper, and you keep switching back and forth. Wouldn't it be greater to have a larger desk so that the book is on your left and the paper is on your right? Unless, of course, you're left-handed, in which case, switch that. See, dual screen monitors set up are going to give you more real estate at a very cheap price. Two good quality 24-inch class widescreen monitors will cost you about $200, $250, somewhere in there. And they will give you a combined display area of 40 inches wide. And they're going to be wonderfully viewable. They are both 2K resolution, 1920 by 1080. So they're about 2K resolution. A 40-inch big screen in 4K, so we're talking about double the resolution here, it's going to be taller. And we actually find that's going to be harder to look at because you're going to be doing a lot of looking up and looking down. It's not going to fit quite the same way. And it's also going to run about $450 or so, about twice that of the two 24-inch screens. So there are many different ergonomic studies that we have found out there. Gartner Group did a wonderful study. They found that two 24-inch monitors really is the sweet spot for productivity. I do that all the time. Personally, I love it. For almost everyone, anything else is going to be overkill. Now, I'm going to change that around for someone who is a graphic artist, someone who's running CAD, computer-assisted drafting, or somebody who's maybe a network admin like myself. I will tell you that I had 4 different 24-inch screen monitors. So I had 3 across and then 1 overhead, and I put all kinds of different information on different monitors. This is how I worked, but this was overkill for almost everybody else. Now, you can even do that with some of the modern laptops. Now, you're going to need a docking station. You're going to need something that's going to give you the outputs for multiple monitors. But I'll tell you, at one company, that's what I had. I had 2 24-inch screen monitors plus my 15-inch screen monitor on the laptop itself. So I had 3 monitors going across. That was powerful. That allowed me to put my email over on one screen, over on half of one screen, put my Word document on the other half of that screen, put up the different bits and pieces of information on the next screen, and then little alerts that I would get would come in on that smaller laptop screen, all the way over off to my right. Look, it doesn't matter what kind of setup that you do, but I'd love for you to try this out. Now, I will note that if you decide to go with, there's a big, huge thing, 4K resolution on these little, 24-inch screen monitors. Yes, you can get 4K resolution, but everything is going to look really tiny, really, really small. And yeah, that's going to be a stressor on your eyes. This is Benjamin Rockwell. Back to you, Hank.
Thank you, Benjamin. There is no one size that fits all for cord cutting. Cord cutting in the telecommunications context is a practice of discontinuing a cable or satellite television service or getting rid of a landline phone. In the case of cable and satellite service, most cord cutters drop them in favor of less expensive options such as Internet TV. In the case of getting rid of a landline phone, many are just using a cell phone for all phone calls. It's no longer necessary to pay for cable or satellite TV. There are options available to anyone who has an internet connection. Whether it's a paid subscription to a service like Netflix, or a free site with an app like Crackle, or a streaming box that plugs right into your television, there's a solution now today for everyone. Streaming TV is where you directly broadcast video context to a receiving platform such as a television, computer, tablet, and a cell phone. Has your monthly cable television bill crept over the $200 mark? The typical cable offering is for internet service, cable television channels, and voice over IP. At $200 a month, your home communications expense is over $2,400 a year. Just remember, that's $2,400 of net income. For most, you need to earn a gross income equivalent to $4,800 a year to net $2,400. The median income in the United States is $60,000. So $4,800 is a big, high percentage of your budget. Add to this, the average monthly cost for a cell phone service is $73. For many, it's even higher than that, or almost $900 to $1,000 a year. You can eliminate telephony expense or landline expense just by replacing it with your present cell phone service. About 60% of cable subscribers today have cut the landline service and just depend on the use of the cell phone. The cost savings to not have telephone service with Spectrum is $10 a month, and for Fios, it comes out to about $15 a month. Looking for what the cost is for Fios services is not very user-friendly at all. I think it is a deliberate attempt in confusing you as you have to read the fine print. When you look for their price schedule, you can't find it. When they compare triple play expense to double play expense, they mix and match 1 year and 2 year offering in such a manner that it's misleading. It is a common complaint by almost everyone that the hidden charges for services that have no explanation adds to the overall expense, and it's never specified when you subscribe to the service. Have you ever tried to break down the cable bill to determine the line item cost for each functional service? You really can't. It's like 3 ping pong balls in a fishbowl. You push down one and the other 2 balls rise up. You try to trim the cost of one service and the cable companies charge more for the other services. In most urban communities, you may only have a single provider for internet service. In New York City, you only have 2 providers. In a condo or co-op, there is only the provider RCN. If you want to get another provider, sure, you can do that, but you still have to pay RCN charges whether you use it or not. When it comes to cord cutting to reduce the cost for television channel services, there are streaming services that offer package deals which are much lower in cost because you're using less channels, but they do not necessarily offer all the channels you want. In most cases, for those who cut the television channels from the cable provider, you need more than one single streaming service. The average number of channels offered by cable providers is about 240 to 250 channels, and if you want to continue to receive all these channels from streaming services, the cost will obviously be higher than the cable service itself. This is true if you must have all the cooking channels, all the movie channels, all the different sports channels, and all the children channels, and so on. And that's, of course, if you were to watch all those channels, you don't have enough time in the day to do it. Truth is, most people really watch a few dozen channels on a regular basis. You hear all this talk about cable cutting like 1 million subscribers have cut the cord in the month of December 2018. But the actual cord cutting is very misleading. If you just look at the macro picture, well, here are some of the statistics. In the city of Phoenix, the cord cutting is up to 25%. However, in Boston and New York, it's only 46%. Why the difference? Well, very simple. There is no competition for internet services in most of the major large metropolitan cities. The cable companies offering the internet service just raise the price for the internet to offset any cuts in television channel services. Until the city fathers in the very large metropolitan areas bring in or allow for free competition for internet competition, cable cutting will be limited. Marty Winston has moved back to Cleveland. Cleveland is better known as home to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He looks forward to moving into a 39-year-old home. He has many technological ideas on how this home will be updated. He will be celebrating his birthday tomorrow, but I was unable to fit all the candles on top of the cupcake for him.
So how old is the house you live in? I mean, specifically, what year was it built? If it's less than about 30 years old, hey, congratulations, you've managed to dodge the bullet on a lot of potential problems. If it's older, well, I'll help you interpret some of what your house may already be asking you to do. Well, how about you? Would you like to go back to being 30 or younger again? It's a romantic notion that tends to get somewhat spoiled by forgotten realities, so let me ask it this way. Would you like to have the energy and health and skin and bones of that age restored to your body today? Now we're talking. So let's talk about how it feels to be over or under 30 as a house. And why 30? Where did that number come from? Actually, it's an approximation, and it has to do with improvements in building standards that started being in more full swing about 30 years ago. I won't bore you with a recitation of the codes, at least not this week. But it comes down to this. If a house is under 30, it tends to be built better and with better safety than houses that are very much older. Of course, some houses that are over 30 were built with a more than minimal attention to those factors. Here's the secret. I'm buying a house that's 39 years old. It's the house that will retrofit to make more energy efficient, and it has loads of opportunities for that. No, I'm not bragging. It has loads of opportunities to be a lot more energy efficient than it is right now. It's a big house, almost 3,500 square feet, and it even has an indoor lap pool. Another thing to make more efficient and clean and maintain. Its HVAC system is a Frankenstein of elements from different vendors. Its ductwork is square, metal, and uninsulated. There's nothing centralized about its electrical distribution or water distribution or gas lines. The attic insulation is loose pellets on the floor, so next to worthless. We'll have plenty of productive work to do, and I'll bet you a cupcake that I can get its energy bills down to less than 40% of what they are today. Some of its thermal windows, even when they're still effective, even those that are still effective, have rot on their sills, which is a major compromise to their thermal efficiency. Some of the skylights have roof flashing that's pulled away and separated, another compromise. The dishwasher and shower heads have scale, meaning the water softener could not have been doing its job. But the bones are good. The timbers and beams, the foundation and roof, and the cladding around the house are all very good. Except for some basement areas where my office has to go, the flooring, well, pretty wonderful. It has a wood-burning fireplace with a blower box underneath. Charming, effective in its day. But we don't want to burn wood, so we'll have that converted to be a housing, a place to hold a more decorative glass-encased gas fireplace inside the stone chamber where the logs went. The water heater just simply needs to go. Retirement time. It's starting to leak, and that's not worth enduring. We'll replace it with a condensing tankless water heater. And we'll replace the pipes with insulated PEX lines. Hey, how many minutes of your week do you spend waiting for the water to be hot when you turn on a hot water tap? How many minutes a week? Life's too short for that, even when you're not yet my age. The water line between the water heater and the tap holds gallons of water that start hot, then lose their heat as they sit in uninsulated pipes. That's gallons of once heated water you have to push out of the way with more gallons of newly heated water, unless you insulate. In insulated PEX pipes, which is what I'm talking about, in insulated PEX pipes, that water stays hot for at least an hour, and its temperature drops slowly. Keeping the heat in the pipes also means not adding to the heat in your house, which does a little to reduce the wear and tear on your air conditioner. Insulating the cold water runs means you're not drinking tepid water out of the cold water taps. Unless you're in a place like Phoenix in the summer, where you're lucky not to get steam out of the cold water tap. We're also looking at ways to stop scale buildup without using the usual water softeners that consume those big heavy bags of salt pellets. It sounds too good to be true, but we'll test it and let you know our findings. Water quality also has an impact on laundry, so we'll get rid of the old basement appliances and do a little upstairs remodeling to add a laundry room on the same level as the bedrooms. We'll use an over-under washer dryer. Can't commit yet, but we're looking at a brand you'll remember but not often find in anyone's home. The idea of having the washer and the dryer near where dirty clothes come from and where clean clothes have to go, and with no stairways between, well, that appeals to me. As long as I'm out to save energy, right? There's no reason to exclude human energy. At some point, toilets have to come into focus. Low-rise toilets are difficult at any age and very difficult with advancing age. Extended fronts on high-rise toilets can help forgive the male pattern errors that my doctor tells me are also a result of geometric changes that come with aging. It might also be worth considering a bidet to cut way down on those bending exercises on the throne. If and when we get there, I will try to be genteel, but everybody needs to have some solution for those needs. So it makes sense to consider what might make specific choices become superior solutions. Bending issues, of course, also arise in the kitchen. The heights of ovens and dishwashers are especially relevant. You know me, if it's in the house and there are choices to make, I'm intent on exploring them, learning about them, figuring out what makes something better than something else. Meanwhile, today is the very last day of my life that I'll be this young. So please excuse me as I head off to some youthful shenanigans. Next time, I'll get into what's what with watts and volts and amps and circuit breakers and household electrical wiring, and the easy-to-spot signs it's something about yours may turn dangerous.
Thank you, Marty, and happy birthday, and say hello to Elvis. Public service announcements. Computer Club meetings in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut tri-state region. The computer clubs have random access sessions at each of these club meetings. If you have any questions or need for technical advice, the club members are more than happy to assist. There is no such thing as a dumb question. Brookdale Computer Users Group will have a presentation on cutting the cord. You know what that is? Things to consider before firing your cable company. Thursday, March the 28th. Meeting time is 6:45 p.m., and they meet in the Middletown Library Large Meeting Room, located at 55 New Monmouth Road, Middletown, New Jersey. Danbury Area Computer Society has their meeting on Tuesday, April the 2nd. Meeting time is 7:30 p.m., and they have a new location, Danbury Hackerspace, located at 158 Main Street in Danbury, Connecticut. Westchester PC Users Group has a presentation on what is an operating system. Thursday, April the 4th. Meeting time is 7 p.m., and they meet at the Keller Williams Realty, 120 Bloomingdale Road, White Plains, New York. The Amateur Computer Group of New Jersey has their meeting on April the 5th at 8 p.m., Friday, and they meet at Scotch Plains Rescue Squad, 1916 Bartow Avenue in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. Kings Byte Computer Club has a meeting on Tuesday, April the 9th. Meeting time is 7 p.m. They meet at the Park Plaza Restaurant, 220 Cadman Plaza West in Brooklyn, New York. Computer Learning Center of Ewing has a presentation on Apple seeds and Apple devices. Thursday, April the 11th. Meeting time is 2 p.m. at the Ewing Senior and Community Center, and the location is 999 Lower Ferry Road in Ewing, New Jersey. The New York Amateur Computer Club has their general meeting on Thursday, April the 11th. Meeting time is 7 p.m. at NYU, 32 Waverly Place, Silver Building, room 414, and bring a photo ID with you as is required to enter the school building. The Long Island Macintosh Users Group has their meeting on Friday, April the 12th. Meeting time is 7 p.m., and they meet at the Harry J. Scher Hall, New York Institute of Technology, Old Westbury campus out in Old Westbury, New York. If you have a computer club meeting you want me to announce on the air, send me a note. My address is hank@pcradioshow.org. Our website is pcradioshow.org. We can be heard each Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on prn.fm, on the Internet, and podcasts are available from all major pod hosting sites, as well as on our website, pcradioshow.org. If you have any questions for us or commentary on any of our feature segments, just send us your email address with your telephone number, in which we can call you at a convenient hour for playback on the program. If you have any questions for us, just send us an email addressed to hank@pcradioshow.org. There is no such thing as a stupid question. In the meantime, stay in touch and keep on computing, and remember to back up. I'm Hank Key, and on behalf of Joe King and Michael Horowitz, we thank you for listening. Stay safe and healthy. Until we meet again, same time, same station next week.